Welcome to Sleep with Myth. Close your eyes and let the world fade away. Tonight we drift beyond time, where gods dream and stories remember their light. Before there was form, there was mist. Before there was sound, there was breath. And before the world began to spin, there stood two divine beings upon a bridge that had no beginning and no end. They were Izanagi and Izanami, the male and female principles of creation. He, the force of movement and light. She, the rhythm and pulse that gave shape to the stillness. Beneath them stretched the sea of chaos, swirling, endless, silent. Above them shimmered the eternal heavens, a soft haze of gold and pearl. Between these realms hung the floating bridge of heaven, suspended in nothingness, where the first heartbeat of the world was waiting to be heard. The elder gods spoke to them. The world below has yet to take form. Stir it and give it shape. Create what has been dreamed, but not yet born. Into their hands the gods placed a spear, Aim no Nuhoko, the heavenly jeweled spear. Its shaft was made of light, and its tip shimmered with drops of night and dawn woven together. Izanagi turned to his companion. "Shall we begin?" Izanami smiled, soft, knowing, infinite. "Let us touch the sea that does not yet know itself." They stood upon the bridge and lowered the jeweled spear into the mist below. When the tip met the swirling chaos, the silence trembled. Izanagi stirred the spear slowly, once, twice, thrice, and lifted it again. From its tip droplets fell. Each drop sparkled as it fell through the mist, becoming heavier, denser, more real. When they touched the formless ocean, they hardened into land. The first island, Onagoroshima, rose from the depths, spinning softly in the fog, radiant and wet with the dew of birth. The gods descended upon it. They walked upon the still warm earth. The soil hummed beneath their feet, as if remembering the heavens they had left. The air smelled of salt and newness, and the sky curved gently around them, still learning to be blue. "This," said Izanagi, "is the beginning of beginnings." Izanami knelt, pressing her palm to the ground. "It beats like a heart." And indeed, the island pulsed faintly, as if alive. The sea lapped against its edges, whispering words no mortal ear would ever hear. The first lullaby of the world. They built a pillar upon the center of the island, the Amnomehashra, the pillar of heaven. Around it they would walk, one to the left, one to the right, until they met again and the act of creation would be complete. As they prepared, Izanagi looked upon Izanami, and for a moment the gods themselves paused to watch. Her eyes reflected the world being born, oceans folding open, light scattering across new horizons, the soft hum of being. He spoke softly, "When we meet again, the world will awaken." She answered, "Then let us make a dawn that never ends." They began to walk around the pillar. The air thickened with light. Their footsteps became rhythm. Their breath became wind. And their gaze carried the first language of love ever spoken. When they met, Izanami smiled first and said, "Oh, how handsome you are!" And the heavens shivered. The island of Onagoro was young. Its sands were still damp with memory, its mountains only half awake. And upon its beating heart stood the two who would finish what the heavens had begun, Izanagi and Izanami. They built upon its center the Amnomihashra, the pillar of heaven. It rose smooth and bright, spiraling like a beam of dawn that had forgotten the sky. Around it the air shimmered, each breath carrying the scent of beginnings. "Here," said Izanagi, "we will walk until heaven and earth remember each other." Izanami smiled. "Then let us walk as two voices that become one song." They began the sacred dance. He to the left, she to the right. Around and around the pillar they moved, each step an echo that taught the air to sing. The ground beneath them hummed in answer, and the sea stilled its waves to listen. When they met at the far side, Izanami spoke first. "Oh, how handsome you are!" And from that gentle phrase a wind rose, soft as a newborn breath, curving through the trees that were not yet trees. But the heavens grew still, as if something had been spoken out of order. When they joined their hands and looked upon the sea, from its waves emerged forms unknown before. Mountains that reached for the sky, rivers that sought the ocean, and clouds that carried light within them. They named each thing they made with breaths instead of words, and the world learned its own name through their whispering. From their union were born the 8 great islands of Japan: Awaji, Io, Oki, Tsukushi, Iki, Tsushima, Sado, and Yamato, each rising like a note in a song that had waited eternity to be sung. Then came the smaller islands, the ridges, the plains, and the shores that caught the light like mirrors for the gods. The sea laughed against their edges, and the first birds stirred their invisible wings. But above their joy, a whisper from the elder gods passed through the air. The female spoke first. A pause, a shiver. Even the sky felt its balance shift. For creation, though beautiful, had not followed the order of heaven. And from this small reversal, a mistake so tender it almost felt like love, the shadow of imperfection entered the world. The next children they bore were misshapen, spirits without form, creatures that drifted between life and dream. They wept for them and placed them back into the sea, to sleep until time would find them again. Izanagi turned to Izanami, his eyes soft but steady. "We will try again, as the heavens intend." This time they walked around the pillar once more, he to the left, she to the right, but when they met, Izanagi spoke first. "Oh, how beautiful you are!" And the world blossomed without hesitation. From their union came the spirits of the wind and rain, the gods of mountains and fields, and those who guarded the tides and fire. Each one was born singing. Each carried a spark of their parents' joy. The world was whole, but it was only beginning to breathe. That night, beneath a sky newly woven with stars, Izanagi and Izanami rested beside the sea they had made. Its surface was so still it seemed to hold the reflection of every dream that had ever been imagined. And though they slept, the islands kept growing, stretching toward each other, forming the veins and bones of a world still young enough to wonder why it existed. The world had learned to breathe. Rivers whispered, winds spoke, mountains dreamed of their own shapes beneath the stars. And Izanagi and Izanami, father and mother of all, stood upon the earth they had made and saw that it was alive. Every shadow held promise. Every sound was a hymn to their love. But even light, when it burns too long, begins to hunger for its own end. For many moons, Izanami bore the gods of the world, children of water, of trees, of stone, and of wind. Each one came from her laughter, each one from her song. But as the world grew fuller, the weight of creation began to tremble in her hands. Then came the day she bore Kagutsuchi, the fire god. He was beauty and destruction made one. His cry was flame, his breath the first sunrise. As he was born, his burning light touched Izanami, not with warmth, but with the searing of stars. Her body shone for a moment like the edge of dawn, and then began to fade. Izanagi caught her in his arms. "Beloved, what is this?" Her voice came as a whisper of smoke. "The child burns with the power of what we cannot contain." She reached out to touch her son, her hand trembling, her smile still kind. And then, as if the light itself could not bear her tenderness, she fell. The mountains turned their faces away. The sea grew still. The wind forgot its song. For the first time since the beginning, silence was not peace, it was loss. Izanagi held her. "You are not gone," he whispered. "You cannot be gone." But her skin grew cold, and her eyes, which once held the first light of the heavens, dimmed until they reflected nothing but stillness. From her final breath rose the scent of cherry blossoms and ash. It drifted across the world, and wherever it touched, life learned what it meant to end. Izanagi's grief became a storm. He looked upon his son, the fire god, and his sorrow turned to rage. "You were born of love," he said, his voice shaking the sky. "But love has burned the one who gave it shape." And in his fury, Izanagi drew his blade and struck Kagutsuchi down. Flame met steel. Light met shadow. From every drop of the fire god's blood, new deities were born. Gods of volcanoes, thunder, and molten stone. Creation fed upon itself, turning loss into birth, death into meaning. Then, when his rage was spent, Izanagi fell to his knees beside Izanami's resting place. He could no longer tell where her body ended and the earth began. The flowers around her turned white. The air shimmered with heat that could not find its fire. "I will not leave you," he whispered. "Not to the shadows, not to the silence." But the world, newly made, had already begun to obey laws older than grief. The dead do not remain with the living. The gates of Yomi, the land of darkness, had opened. The sun fell without promise of return. Stars hid their faces. The sea lost its reflection. And somewhere beneath the roots of the world, Izanami's spirit began its slow descent. Her footsteps leaving trails of light in a place where none should shine. Izanagi stood alone on the shore. The wind moved through his hair like a whisper from the other side. He closed his eyes and said, "Then I will follow you." The world grew quiet. Even the waves, once eager to greet the shore, seemed to hold their breath. Izanagi stood upon the edge of the land, where the sea met the mist, where life blurred into what came after. The sun had not risen for 3 days. His heart, once filled with creation, now carried only the ache of unmaking. He looked toward the horizon and whispered, "If she has gone beyond the light, then so shall I." And so he stepped forward. The entrance to Yomi, the land of the dead, lay in a valley shrouded by withering blossoms and stagnant air. The petals hung heavy, their colors dulled to gray. The wind there did not move, for even it feared to cross that threshold. As Izanagi descended, the air thickened, heavy as sorrow. Shadows clung to him like memory, and every step echoed with the sound of hearts breaking long ago. The light of his divine body dimmed with each breath. The deeper he went, the less he could hear his own thoughts, as if the silence below had swallowed even the idea of sound. But still he called out her name. Izanami, beloved, where are you? His voice fell like a stone into the dark, and from far within the abyss, an answer came. Izanagi, is that you? Her voice trembled, not in fear, but in shame. He ran toward it, and there, at the edge of sight, stood Izanami. But her glow was gone. Her form, once radiant as dawn, now flickered like a candle nearly spent. Her hair clung to her, damp with the chill of death. Around her feet, the ground pulsed faintly with a dim red light, the heartbeat of the underworld. I came to bring you home, Izanagi said, reaching out. She turned away. It is too late. The darkness has claimed me. He shook his head. Nothing can claim what was made from love. She smiled faintly. Then look upon what love has become. Izanagi's hand trembled as he reached toward her. But before he could touch, she whispered, Promise me this, that you will not look upon me until I return to you from the shadows. I must speak to the lords of Yomi. If they will release me, we can walk together once more beneath the sun. He nodded. I will wait. She vanished into the deeper dark. Time stretched thin. The air grew colder. Something began to stir behind him. A whisper, a movement, the faint hiss of decay learning to breathe. And then, unable to bear the silence, Izanagi struck a spark. A single flame flickered to life in his hand, small, trembling, but alive. And in that light he saw her. She was not what he remembered. Her skin had grown pale and cracked. From her body, the crawling shadows of rot moved like silent rivers. Her eyes, still kind, still hers, looked back at him, filled with sorrow that no god could endure. Izanagi gasped and stumbled backward. The flame fell from his hand. Izanami's face twisted in grief and rage. You looked upon me, she cried. You saw what should never be seen. Her voice shook the caverns. From the shadows behind her rose spirits of decay. Yamatsu Shikom, the hags of Yomi. Their mouths filled with ash, their eyes blind but unyielding. Izanagi turned and ran. Through the tunnels he fled, the dead rising behind him, whispering his name in voices that did not breathe. He ran past rivers of stillness, past walls made of forgotten dreams, past his own reflection carved in bone. He reached the mouth of Yomi, where faint light bled from the world above. The sound of pursuit was close, the rustle of the unliving, the echo of regret that refused to fade. With his last strength, he lifted a boulder so vast it split the valley in two, sealing the entrance between life and death. The air stilled. From behind the stone, Izanami's voice came faintly. Izanagi, you betrayed me. Tears traced the dust upon his face. I loved you too much to leave you there. Then know this, she whispered. If you will not be mine in life, I will claim you in death. I will take 1,000 lives each day. And I, he answered softly, will give birth to 1,000 each dawn. Silence followed, heavy, eternal, and full of understanding. Izanagi stepped back into the world. The wind greeted him, cautious but kind. The sun rose again, but its warmth no longer reached as deep. He looked at his hands, still glowing faintly, and whispered, "Light does not forget the shadow that gave it meaning." And the world breathed again. The air beyond Yomi was cold, colder than the sea, colder than grief. Izanagi stood upon the shore where life began, his body covered in the dust of death. The scent of rot still clung to him, and the shadows whispered of what he had seen. He looked toward the horizon, the place where the sky kissed the ocean, and said softly, "The world must not remember the darkness I carry." And so he walked into the sea. The waves welcomed him, not with joy, but with solemn understanding. Salt touched his wounds. The water hummed like a lullaby for a broken god. He removed his garments, the symbols of creation now tainted by sorrow, and cast them aside. Each piece that touched the water became a spirit, small and luminous, returning purity to the air. Then he began the sacred misogi, the cleansing. With every drop that touched him, something was born. When he washed his left eye, light burst forth, and Amaterasu, the radiant goddess of the sun, rose from the foam. Her brilliance scattered the remnants of night, and the world turned its face once more toward warmth. When he washed his right eye, silver light shimmered, and Tsukuyomi, the god of the moon, ascended in calm majesty. His glow was quiet, gentle, a reminder that even reflection could be divine. And when he washed his nose, the sea rumbled and the sky trembled. From that breath of fury came Susanoo, the god of storms, whose tears became rain and whose laughter became thunder. Thus were born the keepers of heaven, born not of joy, but of renewal. Izanagi sank to his knees in the shallow water. He looked at his reflection, a face older than grief, marked by both love and loss, and whispered, "From decay, creation once more. From sorrow, the pulse of eternity." The gods he had birthed gathered in the air around him. Amaterasu shone like dawn reborn. Tsukuyomi drifted above her, calm as moonlit snow. Susanoo danced among clouds and sea spray, his laughter echoing like waves breaking on distant rocks. But the balance between them was fragile, even now, before time had learned to count its own steps. Amaterasu gazed down upon her father. "The light will not fade, so long as hearts remember it." He nodded. "Then I entrust it to you, to watch over the day and the dream." When the ritual was complete, the sea grew still. The sky opened, clear and endless. And for the first time since Izanami's fall, the earth exhaled. Flowers rose where the gods' tears touched sand. The breeze carried the faint laughter of creation finding its courage again. But as Izanagi turned to leave, a shadow lingered behind the sunlight. The memory of Yomi, still watching, still waiting. He looked toward it, whispering softly, "She still waits for me, beyond the gate I sealed." Then he walked inland, his footprints glowing faintly before fading into the dawn. The dawn came softly, not in fire, but in forgiveness. Mist drifted over the newborn earth, and for the first time, light and shadow moved together without fear. Izanagi stood upon the shore, his reflection shimmering in the quiet water. He had seen creation and loss, light and darkness, and found that even gods must bow to the rhythm of both. Above him, 3 lights crossed the sky, gold, silver, and storm blue, the children of his cleansing. Amaterasu shone brightest among them. Her light touched the mountains, the forests, and the hearts of all living things. Tsukuyomi followed, calm and patient, his silver glow weaving dreams from silence. Susanoo raged beyond the horizon, his voice the roar of distant thunder, fierce, yet full of longing. "I have given them the heavens," Izanagi whispered. "The world will remember balance, as day and night, calm and storm, birth and death." He turned his eyes to the far distance, where the sea met the sky, a place where no god yet walked. There, a bridge began to shimmer, a path made of light and cloud. It arched between the world below and the eternal sky above. The gods would one day call it Aim no Ukihashi, the floating bridge of heaven. It was neither of heaven nor earth, but of both, the meeting point of longing and peace. As Izanagi approached the bridge, the wind carried with it a familiar scent, cherry blossoms and ash. He closed his eyes. "Izanami," he said softly, "I will not seek you again, but I will not forget. You are the stillness beneath all things. You are the shadow that makes the dawn beautiful." For a moment, he thought he heard her voice, faint, like a breeze over distant fields. "And you," it whispered, "are the breath that gives silence meaning." He smiled. "Then we are whole again, though worlds apart." The gods stepped upon the bridge. Each footfall left a shimmer in the air, a memory of creation that would echo through time. Beneath him, the world turned, oceans glimmering, mountains rising, forests breathing. Above him, the heavens opened, vast and infinite, and as he walked toward the light, the bridge glowed brighter, stretching endlessly between what was and what would be. When he reached the middle, he paused. Looking down, he saw the earth young and full of promise. Looking up, he saw the sun, radiant, eternal. Between them, he whispered, "Let there always be a way between life and spirit, a bridge of light born from love." And thus, the bridge remained, unseen, but ever present. Every dawn that rises, every dream that touches the heart of night, crosses that sacred path. The gods would rule from the heavens. The mortals would rise and fall beneath them. And Izanagi, father of creation, would become the breath between worlds. Sleep now, listener, for even the gods rest when their work is done. And if you close your eyes, you may still hear the quiet hum of the bridge of heaven, where love, once broken by death, learned to shine forever.